Nixon Parker. This is your girl, Christal Jordan, and I am back with another Culture Conversations with Christal. But today's conversation is for our next cover, which we cannot wait to share with you all. I had the opportunity to meet the creator and executive producer of Johnson, this amazing show that you guys probably already know about. It is airing on Bounce. It's also on the Brown Sugar app. And if you're like me, you can go through Amazon to get to it as well. But the concept of Black men and their conversations with each other and their friendships and their bonds and how they react and communicate and relate to issues from parenthood to dating, it's just an amazing show. And I am honored to have, like I said, the executive producers and creator of the show, Deji, LaRay, and Thomas Q. Jones joining me today. So I'm going to welcome these guys to the show. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say to both of you guys, congratulations on 4 seasons. We are going into season 4. I had the opportunity to talk to you before season 1 premiered a few years ago, and watching this show over the last 4 seasons, the growth and the way the characters have just become a part of the fans' lives is just so amazing to see. So that's got to feel good to have something that's been able to have some, you're building some longevity and some continuity here. So I just want to congratulate both of you guys on that first before we get into season 4. So I'll start with you, Deji, because I know you're the creator of the show. How does it feel to see this show grow over the past 4 seasons and see the fans and new fans, but the way the characters' lives have transitioned? It's a big deal. How does that feel?
I'm elated. I feel accomplished. I feel accomplished. I feel like, we had a vision. We set out to tell these stories. We set out to, change the narrative, quote unquote, change the narrative. And I feel like we've done that in a lot of ways. And we've been very successful at what we started out years ago. I mean, we started this journey, Thomas and I, in 2017. And getting it on the air, and I think it first debuted in 2021. You're looking at 4 years from when we first sat down to discuss what we wanted to do, and now here we are 4 seasons after that.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time that I'm really sort of looking back and reflecting on our journey and how much we've accomplished, because when you're in season 1, you still have a lot to prove. You're trying to make sure that you're executing properly. You're in the thick of it. Season 4 feels like, we've said a lot of things on the show. We've touched on a lot of topics on the show. The characters, like you said, have grown so much. The arcs, you can see them. They feel real. I feel like season 4 is the biggest growth from season 3 to season 4 than we've had in previous seasons. People are emotionally invested, emotionally connected to these characters because they're so familiar to them. I think we've done a great job of just making these characters feel very authentic, like your own friend group, people who and so because of that, I think people view the show a little differently. There's an emotional connection, which is very hard to accomplish. It's very hard to tap in that way. But people love the show, and people are always DMing us and reaching out and just telling us how much the show means to them. So that's really how I measure success, personally, is the impact that we have on the viewers. So, and it's been a great impact. So I'm super excited for season 4.
Yeah. Thomas, what about you? Because I know audiences recognized you obviously from your time on the football field, but literally watching your character, and we've seen you in some other things as well. I mean, you are definitely doing your thing, but this show, it just feels like we get a chance to see your growth as an actor in a much different way than some of the other shows that you've been a part of. Like, Omar's has been able to take audiences through, just feeling hurt, feeling lost, making mistakes. I mean, it's just a total different opportunity for audiences to see how much you've grown as an actor. How does that feel to you?
No, it's great. Johnson is, it's a show that will always be special to me. It'll always have a special place in my heart. Not only that it represents positive Black men, but just like you said, as an actor, I was able to play a character that was a little bit different. It had a lot more depth. He was a lot. Omar Johnson is a complex character, and I played complex characters before. But this role gave me an opportunity to really show a lot of vulnerability, and to be able to really stretch my legs as an actor. From season 1 until season 4, finally have a chance to see, me play a character that evolves over a 4 season, situation, versus, maybe a linear character and maybe being Mary Jane, or maybe another character, maybe in something like Luke Cage, where it's a specific idea of who this guy is. But this character is very complex and has multiple different obstacles he has to overcome. And it's been a pleasure, to play this role, like I said, representing not just Black men, but this specific type of Black man, which is my character, Omar Johnson.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because you get a chance to get to know the characters, and then people are emotionally invested, and that's different. I was watching. It's funny. I watched Straight Outta Compton for some reason day before yesterday, and I was like, it's up on the screen. But this has given us an opportunity with all the characters. I think when you think of the shows that have fan bases that don't die, it's because you got to know those characters. We knew Living Single, all of those characters. We knew the characters on Girlfriends. We even knew the characters on Friends. And so I think that's what Johnson to me is building, is that, we're watching. I want to know, I want Omar and his wife to get back together. Like I'm vested. I want to know what happens when they go to the Bahamas. You know what I mean? It becomes where the viewer feels like they're a part of the family, a part of the story. And so I've been able to watch this, so works come together so beautifully, over the last 4 seasons. So it's exciting as a fan to be able to say that. I want to ask you, both of you, as executive producers, which is a big deal as well. Part of what I think makes this show work is the fact that you have a primary cast that's all committed to these roles, but there's also just great writing, and great directing. And I think, to me, that's what makes this show different. It makes it one that I enjoy watching, because I feel like the time and the authenticity are intentional, that is put into the characters and the character development and the storylines. But I mean, at the end of the day, you cannot bypass great writing. And so I want to ask you both, like, what was this intentional, that you wanted to make sure that the storylines were solid, the characters were solid? It's not like some shows I watch and I'm like, huh, where'd that come from? Now there are shocks. There are shocking things that happen, but we're allowed to watch these characters grow and to show us different things. And I just can't speak enough about how solid and just good the writing is, which adds to the fact that you've got a great cast as well.
Well, thank you so much for that. We strongly feel like the writing for any project, it's not just this project, but any project is the foundation. It's the starting point. It's what you're building your house on. You have a great script, then you can add the walls and, which might be the direction. Then you add the roof, which might be the cinematography, and the wardrobe, which might be, the different rooms. It's like you're building a house and everybody has a job to do, but you have to give people a great script. And we focus very heavily on the writing. We want to make sure that, the voices of these characters are authentic. It's something that these characters would say. It's something that sounds familiar. The topics that we discuss on the show, familiar. Everything needs to feel familiar. Everything needs to feel like, oh, I've been through that, or I know somebody who's been through that, or somebody just said that yesterday. And then also too, we try not to be on the nose with everything. We try not to be preachy. We have a responsibility to make sure that, we're leaving the audience with something to even think about, talk about, something positive when it comes to how we're represented, but we're not forcing it. It's just sharing our perspective and sharing multiple perspectives, even if it's not our perspective, even if it's a opposing view. If we can take these different perspectives, these different views, and we give both sides truth and authenticity and let the audience decide who's right in this particular conversation, or who do they side with, but
Mhm.
still giving the other side valid points to where maybe it opens up a different perspective than they were used to, and it sparks a conversation. That's very important. Just making sure that the writing is fair, that is balanced, that is nuanced, that it does sound like, you know, something these characters would say,
Mhm.
that is reflective of real life, that is funny, that is dramatic, that is unpredictable. These are all things that, you know, we think about, you know, and it is a challenge at times because you have four different characters in
Mhm.
a 30-minute episode,
Yeah.
you know, even shorter than that with commercials, you know what I mean? And you want to give each character enough time to where the audience feels like they've lived with that character, and that character has progressed in every single episode. And so it's, you know, you bring out your measuring tape, you try to figure out, you know, this character needs more time, or this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or we visited, you know, something pretty emotional or serious with this character in the last episode, so they could take a break in this
Mhm.
episode, you know. So you know, it's carefully crafted. You know, I think one of my strong suits as a writer is dialogue,
Mhm.
something that I feel like I'm pretty good at. So I think that comes across very well on the screen. But it's also a testament to the actors. You know, you can put the words on the page, but you got to have really strong actors, you know, such as Thomas Q. Jones and Derek Brady and Philip Smithy, who can take those words and bring it to life. They
Mhm.
make the writing sound better. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you can read a line one way and you read it a different way, and it just sounds better. So you know, the writing is nothing, you know, the show is nothing without the script and the writing, but the writing is nothing without all the other elements that are coming together, whether it's the actors, the production design, all
Mhm.
of that subconsciously makes the writing feel elevated and better when what you're seeing is matching what's on that page and bringing it to life. So it's a true
Yeah.
team effort.
I like that. I think I would say, Thomas, it feels like what it is, not feels like, because I've done this. It's a show that the writing feels natural to both men and women, because there are a lot of shows that the writing connects with women, but men are like, we wouldn't say that. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that happens a lot, because I think a lot of television is kind of catered to women. But this show is one that, I've watched with guy friends, I've watched with my husband, and it's like they can, it's a show that they can watch and feel like it's for them as well. And I think
Mhm.
that's a testament to the writing and the acting, but like you said, just it being authentic, because sometimes even things that are for us and by us, often we feel like we have to fit into a stereotype of what people are expecting. But this doesn't feel that way. It does feel very authentic. It feels like it's for black men, by black men, for black men, but also includes the rest of us, if that makes sense. Do
Yeah,
you get that, Thomas? I mean, I think it's like you want to get this across, but it's definitely something that men probably feel like, at least from what I've heard, that this is actually really how it is with, with guy friends, and that's refreshing for us to see.
definitely. It's what Deji always says is real. It's a real life show. It's a dramedy, but it's a real life show. And also, Deji's one of the best writers I've ever worked with, and he's right. The words, as an actor, when the words jump off the page, it makes it easier for you to perform, and you just sink right into the character and the dialogue. But also, this show is not biased. It's not a biased show. It's not a show for black men. It's just told from these four black men's POV. But
Mhm.
it's a show. It's a human show
Yeah.
that speaks to human experiences, and I think that's why a lot of people can watch it and relate. It's not based around shock value. It's not based around anything specific that's meant to grab your attention. It's just real conversations and conflicts and obstacles, and watching everyday people, navigate these obstacles, and how they overcome those obstacles. Specifically, black men and black women, because there's social media world of black men and black women, and there's the podcast world of black men and black women. You know what I'm saying? Then you have the real world of
Yeah.
black women. And
Yeah.
so this show represents the real world of black men and black
Yeah.
women. Also, it's a solution based show.
Mhm.
uh,
I like
what we try to do is we show the issues um, that you know might not seem like they're exciting,
that. Mhm.
they're real, because I think a lot of TV and content now is shock value based.
Mhm.
So sometimes you kind of get away from being entertained by your own life.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's so true.
So that's what this show is. It's literally real life. It's everyday conversations and
Mhm.
seeing people in general, but specifically black men and black women navigate through their obstacles and try to find a solution instead of just continuing to discuss the negative aspects of our relationships.
Well, I love that. I was telling Deji before you got on, at Lennox and Parker, our goal is to not chase pop culture and shock value, but to really celebrate Black culture in its entirety. And I feel like that's
Mhm.
exactly what this show is doing. I feel like usually when you watch a show, specifically by the creator, if they're a part of it, their character is, that they have all the bells and whistles and they are like a hero, right?
Yeah,
So I would say, as a testament to Deji's authenticity, is his character is not the one that has it all together. In fact, we get a
yeah,
chance. Greg probably may go through the most problems in having his stuff together. We see him getting it together now, but that's refreshing just to see an honest outlook, because we can definitely watch television and get the Instagram view, right? Where, it all wraps up pretty at the end, but we're getting a chance to actually see what's behind the scenes of some of the people that we know, that we may not understand. Why is he acting like that? Or why is his response that way? Why did he ghost me? You're right. What was going on, behind the scenes. So ironically, when I remember when I first talked to you all, I felt like this was like therapy. The show was almost like a therapy session for, the Black community, Black men and Black women, because a lot of times as Black women, we don't know what's going on, in the mind of a Black man. So it's kind of giving us a sneak peek. But this season actually opens with us being able to see therapy sessions. I was like, well, we really have come a long way. It was like therapy. Now it is therapy. It is actually therapy.
yes.
That's been a big conversation. So I want to ask you guys, how did you come to the idea of actually showing a therapy session, specifically because we know a lot of Black men still are not necessarily open to that. So why was it important to actually take the viewer into a therapy session in real time and allow them to see that and to get that feedback and experience it?
I think the main reason why we've done it on a couple of occasions on the show is to show Black men that it is okay. It's not this, sort of far-fetched idea that is not attainable. Because I think in general, even myself growing up, when we talk about mental health and we talk about therapy, when we talk about those types of issues, those are things that we didn't talk about. Those are things that we looked at, as a community, like where I come from, is like, first of all, you got to have money to go see a therapist. This is not something, this is what rich people do, or if that's what you're doing, then there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's, been the perspective for so long.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that, Black women have kicked kicked that door down, and have really uh, shined a light on how important mental health is.
Mhm.
And I think Black men are starting to realize that as well and come around um, to understanding how healthy it is to talk to somebody, to express your what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and for everybody, it doesn't always fall into the form of a therapist. You know what I mean? It doesn't always fall into the form of somebody who is, very, on the professional side of it. Sometimes it's, having somebody who just truly understands what you're going through, who you can have a conversation with. It can be an uncle, it can be your father, it can be a friend who has, experience in what you're going through, and that works as well. I think in season one, we touched on the topic that in our community you know uh, we put a lot on the church when it comes to that. Seek out conversations in the church, when actuality, that's just one side of it. Omar realized that, and we expanded the mental health conversation to include what goes on in the church, but also to, talking to a professional, and Omar talking to his friends. So he's across the board. We've shown all aspects of it. So, it's just important to just I think representation is inspiration. And so if people see us in therapy, if people see Omar, somebody who, you know, who has his presence, right? Who's opening up, being vulnerable in a therapy session, then maybe they'll be inspired if that's something that they've been thinking about wanting to do, or haven't had the idea. Now that that's something that they want to do, maybe it will inspire somebody. And I think that it has, because people have actually reached out and
Yeah.
told me that personally, that it has inspired them. So we know that it is working in that aspect. But on the flip side, you have the Greg character who's like, I don't need it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to therapy. And
Greg
that's
needs.
the opposing
Yeah,
perspective that we're talking about.
yeah.
All the topics. This is not just one size fits all. Okay, everybody doesn't feel like it's for them,
Hmm.
and are they justified in what they think? Well, yeah, it depends on who you ask. Maybe that's their journey. Maybe they're just not there yet, or
Hmm.
maybe they will get what they need from other sources. So it's not about throwing that perspective away. It's about hearing it, having a conversation. Maybe that perspective changes, or maybe we understand that this type of therapy isn't necessarily for everybody. But
Yeah,
I think Greg will come around as well to understanding that regardless, it's not going to hurt and it can only help.
yeah,
So
yeah. What do you think, Thomas? Because your character, we've seen your character do that. I believe he did therapy sessions with Monique, right, earlier, but now we see him on his own and really like, just like the first question, like what makes you happy? I was like, that's a, even though it's obviously food, but just seeing him
yeah,
go and maybe talk more about him, because sometimes I feel like we ask men to do things for us, right? So it's like, okay, I'll go to therapy because she wants me to go with her, but it's refreshing to see him there, working on himself. What was that like, and what has been your feedback, I guess, from fans, watching Omar's character, because he does, if we're talking about stereotypes, it is the more of the tough character that you don't expect to be more as often see in a vulnerable state the way we are able to see Omar. So I
Right.
think a lot of guys can probably relate to that.
Um, I personally think that therapy is very kind of taboo in the Black community. Like Deji said, it's always church, and that's, like you said, one side. But it's been an incredible journey for me, just personally, just going through playing this character and going through some of the obstacles with this character, and then tapping into some personal traumas and personal things that you didn't really know that you needed therapy for. You didn't know you needed to talk to someone for. So this show is kind of translated from me, from Omar Johnson, into my real life, and being able to use certain elements of my life as therapy, acting classes, acting teachers, actually having a therapist. Sometimes you don't realize that you need to talk about these things, and once you just open up, and some of the easiest ways to get you to open up is to ask you something simple, like what makes you happy.
Mm,
A lot of times people think therapy is this kind of this whole Rubik's cube of a situation. When a lot of times it's like, hey, talk to me. What's up with you? What makes you happy? Do you like waffles? You like pancakes? Because you realize that happiness is the key to everything in your life, and the simple things, are the start to mental healing in a lot of ways. And so, with Omar's character, you see him broken down over the first 3 seasons, and then you get into the opening episode of season 4, and he's finally in therapy, one-on-one. He's not there because Naomi suggested him to be
mhm.
there. He's not there because he's got a court issue and he has to be there. He's there because he accepts the fact that he needs to heal,
Yeah.
because his life is spiraling out of control. Um, and the response has been, I mean, I get people all the time, even in real time. They see me out and they're like, "Oh my God, I love the Omar character. I love the fact that he's in therapy." Guys come up to me at the gym, man. Listen, I just went to a therapist, man. I love your character. Women will come up to me and be like, "Thank you so much for the show and portraying a Black man that looks like you in therapy, because my husband is now in therapy."
Yeah.
Because they watched the show together. So the show and the storylines are having an impact in real time, and that's what we set out to do. So we're happy about that for sure.
No, that's beautiful. That's how you heal, right? That's how you
Yeah.
heal a community, by example and aspiration. And then also with Omar's character revealing something that a lot of people have experienced, men and women, and doing that with dignity in a way that was still dignified for the character and other people that are in that situation as well. So just that was huge, and I just wanted to mention that. Now I have a question for you all because I thought, like I said, we want to talk about just more so than mental health, because mental health is the idea of it, but I think just communication and how Black men often communicate differently, maybe based on our culture and how we've been taught. Men have been taught to hold things back and not to express as much, and we're learning that that has come with a price for everybody. But I was talking to a colleague, and he said, I think a lot of times women don't understand that men, we were never taught, we don't like to disappoint women, be it our mom, our wife, our girlfriend, our daughter. And a lot of times we don't know, we are ill equipped to have real conversations because we don't want to hurt them. And so we end up actually hurting them later because we don't know how to put the words together or how to just disappoint her in that moment. And so it goes on and on and on. It's like a lot of relationships, women are hurt because the man did not want to hurt her and he ended up doing just that. But it was because we've never been taught really to have hard conversations with women. And so I wanted to ask both of you that because it's an interesting concept and we've seen it kind of play out on Johnson in different scenarios. Obviously, Greg's character, he did take the initiative and explain to the young lady that he was not prepared to have a baby with her, but you could tell it was uncomfortable for him, and he didn't really know, he didn't want to disappoint her. He also ghosted her earlier, like you could tell that he doesn't really know how to stand up for
Yeah.
himself in relationships. And Omar, he is, you could tell he did not want to hurt Naomi. He also, Bianca, he he's angry at her, but yet when she started crying and breaking down about her stuff, you could tell he still has a softness inside for her and is still not
Yeah.
wanting to necessarily hurt her either. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think about that idea that men have not been really taught how to have tough conversations with women and how to stand up for themselves in relationships? And as a result, that leads to a lot of hurt and miscommunication in our community. I'll start with you, Thomas.
Uh, that's pretty interesting concept because
That's a question for you right there, boy. Man,
um,
this is a therapy session now. Let's go, Christal.
this is Omar Johnson talking, right? This is Omar Johnson. No,
Yes.
I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Communication is everything, and sometimes people don't say what they mean because they don't want to hurt someone. Because sometimes if they do say what they mean, it would hurt them, and sometimes people want to, hear what they want to hear
Yeah.
versus the truth. So there's two sides to that situation. I do think men, kind of tread lightly depending on how they think what they say will affect women. Because I think that's just a natural instinct is to protect a woman, protect her feelings, protect her just in general. And when that happens, you most of the time you create a bigger problem because now you've not only just not been truthful, but you've also maybe opened up another idea in her mind of something else. Now that just makes the issue more complex. But I do think communication and finding the proper ways to communicate are key. And I don't think just in our community in general, you know, we communicate as well as we should. And I think that's something that, definitely Black men need to take accountability for and seek ways to learn how to communicate. Therapy is the number one, way from personally, I think, to do that. You have conversations with people that don't have a bias of you, don't really know you. So they're going to give you a real honest perspective and, not from a judgmental place. And then I think you can kind of start from square one in regards to how you communicate with people. We do that with each other, even as Black men, is just with Black men. Sometimes we don't know how to communicate with each other. You might want to compliment a guy, in the gym, man, he's working out. You may want to ask him, hey man, what do you do for your arms? What do it's like, but you don't know how to communicate. You don't want to ask him and then he feel disrespected or, he feels make you feel awkward. You know what I mean? So we're still working that out within ourselves just as Black men.
Right.
So I think just in general, communication is the key to healing. And, it's on us, as Black men and as Black people in general, to try to find those ways to help us communicate better.
Deji.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I think there's a lot of different answers to this question. I do think if we're speaking in general terms that um, you know generally speaking, men, like Thomas said, we have just this sort of urge to protect,
Mhm.
this urge to have everything all together, right? To have the answers, to lead, is just a natural thing. Like when I'm moving around, I'm like trying to make decisions that's best for everybody that I'm associated with. It doesn't matter, significant other, family, whatever. It's just a natural thing for me. And so, if we're talking about just sort of diving into emotions,
Uh-huh.
there's not necessarily uh, a comfortable spot or a comfortable space for us, right? Then it makes us very uncomfortable at times, right? Because oftentimes, we're looking at things from a logical standpoint. How do we get to the answer very quickly? How do we find a solution very quickly?
Mhm.
And then, it's not to say that we don't feel these emotions. We feel these emotions, but discussing them specifically as opposed to just trying to figure out whatever the solution is a very uncomfortable place for us, but it's very healthy. It's,
Mhm.
it's a very healthy thing to do because as humans, what I've come to realize is that's what we're based upon is emotions and how we feel. You
Mhm.
know, um, that's what life is. Feeling, you're nervous about something, you're angry about something, you are excited about something.
Mhm.
It's just emotions. We're always in a different emotional state at all times, and it's just learning that sort of emotional intelligence that is going to help us, in those tough conversations, but also still remain true to approaching it from an intelligent way and just trying to find a solution. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
think for a lot of men, just because we want to be viewed as having it all together, we sort of feel like if we go down the road of a emotional conversation, oftentimes I think we feel like it's uncomfortable for us and maybe it's counterproductive.
Mhm.
And in actuality, it might be very productive, to come to some sort of an understanding emotionally first,
Mhm.
and then figure out the the solution, the
Yeah.
logical solution afterwards, what we do about it. Just don't gloss over it.
That is interesting. You guys' responses were interesting to that. The question, because I'm wondering, the guy was like, "I don't think we know how to break up with women," and I it sound like so. No, that was good. I want to. I know we don't have much more time, but I want to ask both of you, from your character's perspective. So, from Greg's perspective, what do you want the audience to get from his journey this season? We see that he's experiencing, like, probably for the first time, like his own kind of self-awareness. He's come into what he's really wants to do and what he's passionate about. He's found his thing, and he's celebrating that milestone with getting his culinary degree, and really finally I feel like having some purpose behind
Yeah.
what he's doing, which is great to see. He's also mentoring a little brother, which is probably also adding to his purpose. But what is the if you had to give us an overlying theme that you want people to get from Greg's journey this season, what would that be?
I think the biggest takeaway from Greg this season and all the seasons is that it's never too late to find your passion. It's never too late to figure out what you're passionate about, and it's never too late to pursue it. I think Greg is a late bloomer. He's somebody who um, never had it all figured out. He's always working odd jobs. His friends, definitely had passions, and he was the one who was just trying to figure things out. And that's how it is for a lot of people. Just not really knowing what direction they want to go and trying different things, try and fail, try and fail, try and fail. But Greg has finally found his passion, I think, in season 4, and it's great to see. And I think the biggest takeaway, like I said, is just understanding that you just got to keep your eyes open,
Yeah.
be open. And I think that's what Greg was. He was open to opportunities, and he
Mhm.
found something he was passionate about. And it's never too late, So some people are going to be late bloomers and figure it out later. Some people are going to know exactly what they want to do from a very young age.
Mhm.
Everybody's journey is different,
Yeah.
So it's not about comparing. Oh, this person made it here first, or did this first, or is always been on track. It's like, no, you can be on track starting tomorrow and you're still on track the same way that they're on track.
Mhm.
And you don't have to move at the same pace. Somebody
Yeah.
can move faster and pass you up. You can move slower,
Mhm.
as long as you're moving. I think that's the key. As long as you're progressing, that is
Mhm.
the key. And not standing still, not being stagnant, and definitely not going backwards.
Yeah.
So Greg's moving forward slower than the rest of the guys, but he's moving forward. I
Mhm.
think that's a great thing for him in season 4.
Yeah, and I think it's great that it doesn't affect the friendship, because I think a lot of times we hear a message of, if you're not at the same level I am financially or career
Mhm.
wise, that we're not this, we can't be friends. But the friendships have remained consistent from the time they were in grade school, and everyone allows everyone to have their successes but still manages to support. And I think that's an interesting and very important concept, to see that friendship should not be based on what you have in the bank and the fact that we can both go show off our flashy cars. Friendship is actually based on the fact that all four of these guys love each other and are there for each other, whether it's, you know, going to look for Omar's son, a few seasons ago, or showing up for Greg when he graduated from culinary school. It's beautiful to see.
Yeah.
Omar, what about Thomas? What about you for Omar? Omar is always going. He always has big stuff because he has the wife, and not necessarily ex-wife, but estranged, and the son, and then he had to be. He always has a lot going on and beating people up, but he's fun to watch. What do you want to get from Omar's journey this season 4?
Man, like you said, Omar always has something going on. He always has something seemingly major going on, but um, never give up. Never give up. Omar is he's an ambitious guy. He's an entrepreneur in a space where you typically don't see people that look like him. Black techies. That have their own technology company, and especially people that look like him in particular. Buff, dark skin, tattoos.
Mhm.
That's not what you would connect with not just entrepreneurship, but definitely the tech space. But he's struggled, over the last few seasons trying to get this company off the ground, and you see he never gave up. And now season 4, he finally has his company,
Mhm.
and he's navigating how to make this company a success and overcome the obstacles that come with that being a black entrepreneur. Within his family life, he loves his wife, man. He loves his wife, he loves his family, and a lot of times on TV and in the media, we hear the deadbeat daddy narrative a lot of times, and there are guys out there that aren't taking care of their responsibilities. But there are a lot of guys, the majority of guys that I know that are in my life, they are taking care of their responsibilities. They love their wives, they love their families, and they're fighting for them regardless. So you see Omar still trying to make it work. He hasn't given up on his wife, he hasn't given up on his family.
Mhm.
If anything, he's even more. Um, Intent on his family. And you watch season 4 and you'll figure out in the later episodes what I'm saying in regards to his family and how happy he is with his family. But I just feel like Omar's character is a black man that's not giving up on
Mhm.
anything in his life,
Mhm.
regardless of what the obstacles are. And I hope that motivates people in general, as they watch the character.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all of you guys. Such a pleasure to have both of you here. Look forward to speaking to your co-stars as well, as we celebrate with the cover, to just basically celebrating Black men and the strides that they're making. Deji, I want to ask you a last question, just for any other creators out there, because you are the creator of this show, seeing your thoughts and what you came up with in your mind on a television screen, and getting positive response to seeing how it's helping people. That has got to be an amazing feeling. And so I just would love for you to share with anyone out there that aspires to create and can't imagine having this amount of success. Can you, share anything with them to kind of pull them through?
Man, I mean, first we got to understand that it's a tough business. It's a very, very tough business. It's a business that owes you nothing. It's a business that is very unforgiving, and you're going to get a lot of no's for a long time. The original pilot script of Johnson I wrote in 2014. And it wasn't until 2017 when I met Thomas, and then 2021 when it debuted. So if you look at that time frame, there's a lot of people in that time frame that would have quit. A lot of people that would have quit. The easiest thing to do would have been to just walk away from it and say, you know what, it didn't work out. I think persistence is the key. Number one, you have to tell stories that I think are authentic. I think stories that you really truly understand, because they have to be good. The scripts have to be good. The stories have to be good. That's the first step
Yeah.
is recognizing, that this is what you were born to do. I love to write, and I write any chance that I get. Thomas will call me and he knows, like, I'll be in Joshua Tree, just writing, you know what I mean? And so I think people got to have that same sort of passion and that energy, that they're satisfied regardless of the level of success. I would be satisfied even if my scripts didn't get made. I would be satisfied. Obviously, you want more. You want to attain, getting your work done, and that is the ultimate sort of satisfaction. But when I finish a script, I still get that same feeling. I get the same feeling when I finish a script as I do when Johnson airs on television. It's the same way I tell actors. You want to be an actor, you want to be in movies. But do you get that same enjoyment and that same feeling when you do a stage play? Right? If you do, then this is what you're supposed to be doing, because you're acting and you're loving it. It can't just be about the results. It can't just be about the results. It has to be about the journey. You have to be content and happy with sitting in a coffee shop and writing for hours. That has to be your piece, as a creative, as a writer. And if that's a chore and you're only sort of measuring your worth as a creative based on your success, then it's going to be a long road for you. So I think you got to really celebrate the little wins and figure out a smaller version of success that's going to keep you going. You finish a script, that's success. You celebrate that. Maybe you do a reading, a live reading with actors. You hear it on its feet. That's success. That's beautiful. That's a feeling. That's another accomplishment. That inspires you to do that again. At some point, somebody's going to come knocking. At some point, your script is going to end up in the right person's hand if you have the persistence. But you got to love it first. You have to truly love it. So.
Yeah. Sounds like that was a God-given gift, because if you can do it and it's your piece, it sounds like that was your gift. So
it has to be a piece. It has to make you happy.
Yeah. I love that. What a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Deji LaRay, the creator and executive producer for Johnson, and Thomas Q. Jones, executive producer and star. You guys both are amazing, and we look forward to celebrating you again, but this time in a different fashion here at Lennox and Parker. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Christal. Thank you for always supporting us, Christal. Thank you so much.
We really,
it's like without journalists, without you, your platform, and others, and getting the word out to the audiences, this show doesn't exist. So we all need each other. We need the audiences. We need the journalists. You all are the middle ground, the connection, and then we got to create, shows like this as well. So we appreciate you and what you do.
Yeah, and you in particular, you believed in this show from day one and gave us the platform and the opportunity to share, what we had to offer, and we'll always be forever grateful to you for that. So
I thank you. It makes it easy for us to do our job when it's something we believe in. And from the first time I saw that first episode, I was like, wow, this is really, really, really good. And I get a chance to talk to a lot of actors and a lot of writers and things, but when something is just something that you really believe in, you just it makes it so much more enjoyable. So I'm a fan, and I enjoy writing and supporting as a fan. But I'm telling you all, we needed this. The culture needed it, and so I'll always be here to support.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
All right, you all enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of your day.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, there you go. That's the first half of our conversation with the men from Johnson. We've got two more of the characters that are going to be joining us for a conversation. And then as we roll out this cover for Johnson, we're going to be talking to some other men in the community and getting their perspective and their feedback on mental health and therapy, and what are the differences in our community with the way that we look at it as a community as a whole now. Are we open? Are there more men open to going to therapy? Are more men open to learning different forms and more healthier forms of communication? We're going to talk all about that. You can see all about that on lennoxandparker.com. Stay tuned. There's more to come.